This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.
The final score at the racecourse: Wrexham 4, Torquay United 0. That'll do, I reckon. First time we scored 3 goals in consecutive games since November 2015. Yeah, calm down. First time we scored 3 goals in the first half since April 2015. First time we've led by 2 goals at half-time since we beat Forest Green. That was in November 2016. And Chris Holroyd with a hat-trick. The first hat-trick for a Wrexham player since Rob Ogilvie stuck 3 goals past Hyde. That was back in December 2013, and the first goal time a Wrexham player has scored a hat-trick at the racecourse since November 2012 when Andy Morrell scored 3 in a 5-0 win against Rushall Olympic. Oh, stats all over the place. Holroyd now 9 goals in 8 home league games, and the third time he scored more than 1 goal in a game for Wrexham already this season. Tremendous stuff, and Wrexham will be hugely satisfied with this. Torquay United, bottom of the table. And I mean, they played like a bottom of the table team, and I don't mean that as an insult. Bottom of the table teams don't tend to be teams that just get totally outclassed. They tend to be teams that don't take advantage of their opportunities, and then that was the case with Torquay, who had a lot of possession and moved the ball quite nicely at times, who showed some promise in some areas but really didn't take advantage of what chances they carved out. They started the game the better, you might argue. Wrexham took the lead in the 9th minute. In the 8th minute, Torquay maybe should have taken the lead themselves, and the opening exchanges went to the visitors, if anybody. In the 5th minute, Dowling, who started off as a right wing back, carried the ball forwards and picked out Reid, whose 20-yard shot was heading inside the left post and was spilled by Chris Dunn, who managed to pounce on it at the second attempt. Edgy sensations coming from the crowd because Dunn, of course, was doubtful perhaps with this game after the error he made last Saturday. But he got the call, and when he spilled that shot, I think a few people were arguing that maybe Christian Dibble should have been given the opportunity. 3 minutes later, Dunn showed what he could do. Young with a corner, swept into the edge of the 6-yard box. A great header out by Sean Pearson, but the ball fell in eventually to Reid, whose shot was blocked and spanned kindly to the centre-back Scott McGinty, who turned on the edge of the 6-yard box and blasted in a shot. Tremendous save by Dunn, who got across, and as the ball was rocketing above him, managed to palm it over the bar. And that was a crucial intervention because within a minute, Wrexham were ahead from the corner. Wrexham broke away well. Holroyd feeding a good ball into the box. This time it was the Fett's turn to make a good clearing header, but the ball came back out to Paul Rutherford, and he was unlucky really. He was 10 yards out and he had to take a touch before hitting it, and that just slowed him down slightly. It wouldn't quite come down in time for him. When he hit his shot, a defender lunged and deflected it over the bar, but it was a very temporary reprieve from the corner. Well, you've got to suggest that Torquay either didn't pay attention to their scouting of Wrexham's previous games or didn't apply the scouting they'd done, because it was exactly the same as Holroyd's goal from a corner against Barrow that opened the scoring on New Year's Day. Kelly swept in the corner to the near post. Holroyd lost his man very early on. He was so alone in the box, running across, making that diagonal run to the near post and making that familiar flick header to put it beyond the keeper. That's Wrexham. Holroyd by this point now, of course, full of confidence, and 2 minutes later, a little passage of play which showed that really opportunistic effort by him. The ball falling to him in the centre circle, and he tried a shot, didn't quite get enough on it, and the keeper Vincent Dorel was able to get across to his left and can save it comfortably enough. But Holroyd overbrimming confidence. There was one more possible opportunity for Torquay before the game went beyond them, really. A long ball over the top. Their debutant striker, on loan from Plymouth, Alex Fletcher, seemed to foul Sean Pearson in the air, but the referee didn't give it, and Fletcher ran in behind the defence as Pearson tried to chase him and drove a ball across the face of goal. Reid just couldn't quite reach it in the goalmouth. And then after that, Wrexham took control of the half, with Wedgbury and Kelly looking good in the centre of midfield, and Rutherford looking threatening down the right. Holroyd coming inside to link up with the impressive partnership of Miller and Bowden. What a shame this was Miller's last game for Wrexham, because that really has been a duo which has looked full of goals. Wrexham going close with a nice move, which ended with Holroyd doing well to feed the ball over to Rutherford, who cut in from the right-hand side, beat Davis to wing-back, and then tried to curl it from the right corner of the box with his left foot. Couldn't bring it down in time, and so he didn't hit the top corner. A couple of minutes later, Wrexham again with an opportunity. Rutherford with a free kick on the left flank, lovely shape on it. Holroyd attacking their header 10 yards out, couldn't keep his header down, put it over the bar. And a couple of minutes again later, another set piece. Again, Torquay, were you watching the video of the Barrow match? Because Wrexham tried the same short corner routine, which ended with a shout for a penalty against Barrow, and Holroyd felt he was blocked. Flat ball to the near post, popped back out, fed back in again towards the penalty spot. This time, it's as it was on the left-hand side, a left-footed option was required for the shot, and so it was Jennings, and there was nobody impeding him, but he couldn't keep on top of his shot and put it over the bar from 15 yards out. Wrexham continuing to press. Bowden with a neat turn and snapshot from 20 yards, which again went over the bar before in the 31st minute Wrexham scored the second goal. Rutherford swinging in a set piece on the left-hand side. Bowden flicking the free kick onto the far post. Manny Smith unmarked, rising, heading it downwards. Durrell went low to his right, got his hands to it, but the ball already crossed the line by then, and Wrexham had a 2-0 lead. Smith scoring his first goals since the brace he got at Maidenhead in the second game of the season. Torquay at this point rallied and had a couple of opportunities for themselves. Reid turning and hitting a snapshot, which Dunn well to hold on to, low down to his right, and then a minute later again Dunn versus McGinty, a corner half cleared, played back in. McGinty 10 yards out, swiping in a shot. It was heading for the bottom right corner, but Dunn lunged down low to his left, a good parry to push the ball clear. And again, soon after Dunn's save, Wrexham profited with another goal. Bowden holding it up well and squaring it on. A tremendous run by Rutherford, tearing through the centre of the pitch before squaring it on to Holroyd, with the simplest of finishes to give himself his second goal. There was one final moment of danger from Torquay in the last minute of the half, and a lovely chip by Luke Young to the right-hand side tempted O'Sullivan onto it. He drove it across the face of goal. Nobody could get a touch. But the fact was, half-time, Wrexham leading 3-0, and reasonable recognition, I think, really, for the way they'd gone about their business. The second half was a sort of second half you often get when one side has a commanding lead. They took the foot off the pedal a bit, did Wrexham, and were happy to just, see the game out, at least for the first 25 minutes of that half. The only thing to record in that was that Mark Carrington, who'd had to come on as a half-time sub for the injured Kevin Roberts, was lucky not to concede a penalty in the 5th minute of the second half. Davis breaking down the left, driving in across. The ball struck Carrington's arm. It was hit very hard at him. I wouldn't say Davis was right on top of him, and Carrington's arm seemed to be stretched out away from his body, so Wrexham a little fortunate that the ref didn't point to the penalty spot. But there was no real sense that a goal from Torquay was about to spark some sort of comeback, in all honesty. And in the closing phase of the game, when Torquay, who had a lot of possession in the second half, and credit to them for that, I think really realised that the game was gone, and Wrexham started to create opportunities. Jennings started it off, cutting in onto his right foot from the left flank, once again an echo of the Dover match this time, beg your pardon. Remember that curl he had with his weaker foot? He tried the same thing again. This time he couldn't quite pull it back in as much, and it went well off target. George Miller, looking to mark his last game on loan to Wrexham with the goal, which he richly deserves, had a couple of moments as Chris Holroyd was also looking to get on his hat-trick. Miller picking up a flick on from Bowden on a 3-on-2 break, a great opportunity. Miller on the left-hand side, Holroyd completely unmarked in the middle. What a chance to tee him up for his hat-trick. Miller hideously overhit it. It went well out to the right flank, while Holroyd came across, kept it alive, pulled across back in, and Bowden, standing 15 yards out, hit a shot into the ground, which span up into the goal mouth. Miller, all on his own, chasing after it. It looked like any sort of decent contact, and he'd knock it past the stranded keeper with his head. But he got no sort of decent contact, unfortunately, and put it straight into the goalkeeper's hands. And 3 minutes later, another opportunity for Miller. Jennings drilling a terrific pass from the left-back position through the middle. And Miller, with his pace, got beyond the last defender, Anderson, straight down the middle. But the centre-back, to his massive credit, slid in and made an excellent tackle to deny Miller. And then it was just all about Holroyd, who, having not got that cross in, was looking for his hat-trick. The 10 minutes left, really good move by Wrexham after a long spell of possession. The Torquay half ended the Bowden driving in a shot which took a deflection and span across the face of goal. Holroyd attacking it at the far post, just couldn't reach it. It looked like it was going to be denied earlier as well. Rutherford had drilled a nasty cross across the face of goal and Holroyd couldn't quite reach it. But in the 90th minute, he was given the most generous of helping hands to get the hat-trick. A cross swung into the box. Anderson, the centre-back, inexplicably jumping with his arm up and handling it. The referee this time giving the handball penalty, pointing to the spot. Pearson stepped up and took the ball into the bottom left corner to take the match ball home with him and to cap a very, very satisfying day's work for Wrexham, who have scored 4 goals this season for the first time, having last Saturday scored 3 goals this season for the first time, and must now feel they've got a key victory there. In all honesty, Wrexham, without winning 4 league matches, just needed to get the winning momentum back. But Wrexham go back up to 4th in the table with a game in hand. Should they win that game in hand, they go equal second. A lot of teams around Wrexham drop points as well. So a good day for Wrexham. And I must mention as well, massively importantly, the bizarre stuff going on off the pitch. The crowd swelled by nearly a couple of hundred Magdeburg fans. Wrexham played Magdeburg in the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1979, beat them 3-2 here, lost 3-2 there, and then went on in extra time to lose 5-2 there and go out of the competition. And Magdeburg, in a training camp in the northwest, a lot of their fans decided they'd come and see us. I must admit, when I saw this and I heard there was going to be over 100, I thought, oh, that sounds a bit exaggerated. Oh, it certainly wasn't. They pilled the St Unity Club beforehand. They filled a section of the B Concept stand down on the left-hand side nearest the Cop and made some terrific noise backing Wrexham up, and had a great day. And so Wrexham, well, let's just put it this way. In 1979, Magdeburg came to the racecourse and Wrexham won. In 2018, Magdeburg came to the racecourse and Wrexham won. Can they come every week, please? I wouldn't mind that at all. Anyway, for further analysis, have a listen to what Richard Griffiths, James Harrison and I had to say after the match on Calon FM. Well, that wasn't too bad, was it? Wrexham winning 4-0 against bottom side Torquay United. An emphatic victory for Wrexham and a hat-trick for Chris Holroyd, which, as James said, is the first time a Wrexham player has scored a hat-trick since Rob Ogilvie managed it against Hyde, and the first one at the racecourse since Andy Morrell got one against Grusel Olympic in 2012. So quite a feat for Holroyd and a comprehensive performance by Wrexham. And ultimately, Richard, I mean, you can't argue with the final outcome, can you?
Absolutely not. And I got my 4th goal, so I'm happy. I'll go home pleased that it wasn't a scoreless second half. But no, that was something for the 4,200 and odd to send them home with a bit of cheer this afternoon. It was well worth them coming out. I think on balance, in the end, we were very good value for the win. And credit to Torquay. They didn't come and park the bus. They did try.
Is that the mistake they made there?
Exactly. I think in the past, you and I have sat here and commented on Torquay games that have been so dismal because they're just not interested. But I think at this point where they are, they've got to try and they've got to have a go. I just think they do. But I think great performance. Some brilliant performances this afternoon from our guys.
Well, you'll be adjudicating that in a moment when you pick your man of the match. You've got really a few options to pick from. Certainly Torquay looked aside bereft of confidence, casting around for ideas. They tried 3 different formations throughout the match and had good possession but lacked end product. But James, I mean, if I could ask you, where did it all go right?
I think it went right with what Torquay did for us, really. It wasn't as convincing a display from our midfield or attack as Barrow, and it wasn't as convincing a defensive display at, say, Tranmere away. Something just clicked in the last couple of games. We've started creating more chances, putting the ball in the box and asking questions, but I think Torquay were very much the enemy of that, the way they played. They pressed well up front and they pressed well in their midfield. That allowed us a lot of space in the first half out wide, and a lot of space against their on the counter-attack. Their defence didn't look have a lot of confidence in their goalkeeper, so it was very much they had to deal with it, and that put them under more pressure than perhaps they deserved to be. But yeah, we'll take nothing away from it. We just scored 4 goals. We got our first hat-trick of the season, and other teams are beating teams 4-0, 4-1, and scoring a lot of goals. So it's nice that Wrexham have finally put that got that monkey off their back, and with 7 goals in 2 games now. Interesting, that question we had, and we discussed at half time about where the fine balance is. I don't know where the fine balance is, but it's a clean sheet, 4 goals. It's a good performance, but you've got to take into account a little bit of the of who we're playing.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. You can say 7 goals in 2 games is rather nice. And November 2015, the last time we scored 3 goals in consecutive games, that was the second of those was the Gateshead game when Don Vaux scored that zigzagging goal. So that's a fair distance back to go since we've done that. But that the attacking configuration we have at the moment is another reason why Torquay had problems, because we were stretching them all the time when we got in behind them. What a shame we've lost George Miller now as his last game for us.
Yeah, I mean, he's unfortunately not go down with a goal to his name, but his spell. We've taken a lot of youngsters on loan over the years. I'm not just talking about Masanka and Reid, who have played their part this season and a little bit of last season with Masanka, but there's a lot of youngsters that have come through from higher clubs and just not made an impact. He's come forward. That player will have a career in this at a decent level. He's a natural workhorse. He's got natural pace and he doesn't give up. How many times has he chased lost causes there? And Wrexham have benefited from it. It's been obvious today and obvious in his it took him, I think he said himself, a game and a half to work out how football's played at this level, and he's improved the players around him, and it's Bowden, Holroyd and him have formed a nice little triangle of partnerships there, and I think Rutherford's also coming to his own. He's got targets to aim at. They can play balls now that perhaps we weren't getting before or challenging, and now we are, so it makes everyone look a bit better and more confidence in them.
Miller has shown perhaps that I've agreed with what you said at half time about the need for a big target man, but Miller has shown that there is an alternative, which is a player who can run in behind, will also create that space for Wrexham to attack and look more dangerous. The problem is you'd have to get one of Miller's quality, and I think his intelligence with his runs and his strength in holding people off will be hard to replicate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, quick example before we run out of time, but Jamie Reid on the opposite side today is that player that will run behind, has lots of pace, did lots of pressing, exactly the same as George Miller did, just lacks the quality, doesn't have that finesse on the ball, the patience or the delivery or the threat. But he's, so yeah, you are. It's very difficult. Whereas a target man at this level, I suppose, causes anyone problems. It's a fine balance. It's a nightmare to be a manager, and that's why I'm glad I'm not one.
Yeah, exactly. And so now, Richard, which hat-trick scoring player did you give your man of the match award to?
Yeah, but I just so dearly wanted to give it to Miller as well. It wasn't Roberts, no. Do you know what? I did ask earlier, would it be like a complete... I know you've given me some stares over the years at my choices of man of the match.
Just call me Stanner.
And I did ask James, would it be complete, transgression to give Miller man of the match, because he did everything but score, and he was so creative.
He did work hard, didn't he?
Every lost cause, but when somebody in a red shirt scores a hat-trick, you can't give it to anybody else,
exactly,
can you? And I certainly wouldn't dare in your presence.
Well, let's look at it the other way around then. Holroyd has to be man of the match. He's got a hat-trick.
Yes.
He was creative. He was dangerous, obviously.
Yes.
But there were a number of other good performances. Miller's hard work made those chances possible.
Yeah.
Others who stood out, Bowden, I thought, dropping off and creating.
Yeah, Bowden, his touch let him down a couple of times, but in fairness, he was, again, he's so hard working. He's always looking to lay the ball off and flick it around the corner, and chased hard again all day. Wegsbury, he looks dangerous at times, the way his legs fly everywhere, but he's so blood and guts into everything. Same as Jennings. Two of them worked really, really hard today. Little black mark on Jennings' book once again for another yellow card, because that'll come home to roost. He'll come home to roost again though, because he'll be out for a game or two. But down to a man, and there was a comment made in commentary earlier where we were talking about fans get frustrated about this or that, and it was something, it was talking about the play that we make, and what came to me at the time was that to a man you cannot criticise anybody on our side, because they all run for the cause, they all try their hardest. It doesn't always result in the prettiest football, it doesn't always come off, but there's not one player you could have a go at.
Yeah.
This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.